Hello, thanks for tuning in to this video. So, one of my favourite songs and favourite sounds and things of recent years is the track Singularity by Stephan Bodzin. I'm sure a lot of you know that track. There are loads of videos on YouTube about how to create that Stephan Bodzin lead sound on various different platforms, from Ableton Live to using like proper Moog or Moog, whatever you want to call it, sub 37th synth and so on. I thought I'd have a go at recreating pretty much the whole track using just the Deluge with all the internal sounds. And I don't want to blow my own trumpet, but I will. I kind of think it sounds all right, you know. So we're going to basically try and make the Deluge sound like a Moog or Moog sub 37 on the bass sound. So let me give you a little example of what it sounds like. And then I'll go through what I've got here and I'll show you how I've made the sounds and did the whole thing. A good tester of this is if YouTube stops me from monetizing this because of copyright, because they think it's the original version, then that is probably a result. It means I've got it right. So we start off like this. Okay, then we're going to bring all the drums in. Then we're going to bring that lovely bass line in, my bass lead part, which is like the main hook of the song. Here we go. In fact, we can drop the drums out when we ring this in. Now we start to mess with the filter a little bit on this bass lead sound. I've also then doubled this up to give it a bit more. Okay, so let's go through each part separately and I'll show you how I've made it. Now, for those of you who can't be bothered to go through and follow how I've made it, I am going to make the contents of, well, it's already available on there. The contents of my SD card is going to be on my Patreon. All you got to do is subscribe to tier 2 and above, and you will be able to download the entire contents of my SD card with all my presets and everything else in. And this is on here. This is on, if you need to find it, if you've got it. The songs, it's in my songs folder, obviously, and it's called Bodzin, okay, and all the presets and everything are in there. So, if we have a look at the ARP thing first, let's just go through the MIDI parts first, and then I'll do a little bit on the sound design. So, the ARP is an 8-bar loop, okay, so the first 4 bars are basically these notes, okay, going across the 16th notes, but it's slightly longer than a beat, so it kind of just evolves as it goes across. So, we've got A sharp on the first 16th note, we've got F sharp on the second one, and then we've got just an F on the third one, and then we're going an octave down to the A sharp. So that's kind of from the octave down to there, and that is going to last for 3 16th notes. And then all you're going to do is that section there, which is a beat and a half, we're going to repeat there, we're going to repeat there, okay, for the first 4 bars. So it's just going to keep repeating. So that sequence starts in a slightly different position each time. What happens then on the second 4 bars, okay, so from bar 5 here, which is actually going to start on the and of beat 1 here, that top note, instead of being on A, goes down to G, okay, so it's G, F sharp, F, and A, and then you do the same thing, you repeat that all the way through until you get to the end, and we get this slightly different bit where it kind of jumps back to the beginning there. So if I play you just the ARP part on its own, and then it changes down to that G. Okay, and we get that little kind of double note when it goes back to the beginning. So that's the MIDI notes for that. In terms of sound design, this one is pretty straightforward. We're using, if I remember rightly, just oscillator 1, which is up at full volume, and I'm using the analog saw, and that's most of the sound. It's basically then we're filtering it down quite a lot. If we look at the filter, is on 26. We've got no resonance. The amp envelope is 0 attack, 0 decay. We've got full sustain and 0 release. So it's basically just a note on, note off thing for that. We've then got a slight amount of filter envelope. So I've got the low pass filter patched into, sorry, come back out of that, into envelope 2. And I've only got an amount of 8 on that envelope. So it's only a tiny bit of envelope usage on there. Again, you can tweak these to your liking. But envelope 2, 0 attack, 35 on the decay, 39 on the sustain, and 0 on the release. Okay, and that is giving us that, just that nice ARP sound. We've got a fair bit of reverb on there, tiny bit of delay. Again, you can add those in to taste, but that is the basics of that one. It's a pretty straightforward kind of sound. The drums, if I go, let's go for which track's got everything playing. Is it that one? Yeah. Okay. So, in terms of the pattern, it's fairly straightforward. We've got a 4-bar loop. We've got a kick drum. Again, I'm using, I think these are just all the internal sounds on the Deluge. We've got a kick on all 4 beats, which is straightforward enough. Hi-hat is playing 16ths. Now, what I've done with the hi-hat is I just recorded a little bit of panning. Or did I on that one? I can't remember on that one. I know I messed about with the velocities a little bit and just varied the velocities a little bit just to make it sound a little bit more human, but that's just me. You don't particularly need to do that. So that's whatever hi-hat sound that was, the 808 hi-hat. Most of these are 808 sounds, if I remember rightly. I've then got a closed there, which is playing that offbeat one, the okay, which comes in later in the track. Okay. I then just bring a shaker in just to kind of lift it up partway through the track. Again, just playing the 16th notes. The claps, we've got 2 claps going off here. Let's just listen to those. So I've got the 808 clap on here, and I've got the 909 clap on here. Okay, so we get that 909, we get the 2 claps on every other beat, so on beat 4, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, that one's quite loud. That's trying to sort of replicate what was going off in the original. And then we have this little extra bit on the 3rd bar where we get these extra claps here. So let's just get to that bit. Okay, so we've got a clap on the last 16th note of beat 3 and the 3rd 16th note of beat 4, and I've taken the velocity down on those to whatever it was, 45, 40, 45, that kind of thing, just so it sounded a little bit more like a ghost note, so it's a little bit quieter. And then we get the tom things going off. So up in here we've got the 808 tom, which is on the 3rd 16th note, or the and, of beat 4 on every other bar. Okay, let's just bring the kick drum back in so you can hear where that's coming in. So that's this one here. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 2, 3. And we've got quite a lot of reverb and delay on that. Again, you can add those in to taste. And we then have this other like little tom roll that comes on, starts on. It's every other bar. It's the 1st and the 3rd bar. You can have these on the same sound. I've just put it on 2 different sounds just to give it a bit of variety. So we've got 16th notes going from the 3rd 16th and 3E and 4, and stops on the 4 there. So that's this bit. And I've done that just so it's going to gradually increase in volume. So we've got 45 on that one. We've got 49, 53, 57. We're going to get that a little bit higher. 65, and then up a little bit. So it's just going, so it's getting up in there in volume. And again, we've got a fair bit of reverb on there. I think it's just reverb on there. Yeah, just reverb on that one. And I think, if I remember rightly on that one, I may have pitched that down a little bit. Yes, I pitched that down actually because I wanted that to be quite deep. So it's the 808 low tom, but I pitched it down 10 semitones just to deepen the sound a little bit. And also, we've taken off most of the... Ooh. I think if I remember rightly, I had that on a high-pass filter just to take off a little bit of the low end, just so it wasn't too boomy up on there. And then the third bar, we got exactly the same thing, but I'm then using this whatever kit that is. It's one of the internal kits, which I've transposed down 5 semitones, again, just to get it a little bit deeper. So it's doing exactly the same thing, but we've got a bit of delay and a bit of reverb on there, just to give it a little bit of variation between the two. So if we just put those two on, so there's your first one. And again, I've done the same thing, just gradually bringing the volume up. And that's the drum pattern. Okay, and so on to where all the magic happens with that bass lead sound, which is this one down here. I've got 2 versions of this. I will go through this one first. Let's cover the MIDI again as we did last time. Now this one I've got a... is this 16 bars long? Or is it 8? No, I've got 16 bars on this, just to give it a little bit of variation on where we kind of overlap and stuff. So, the bass part starts... Actually, no, I'm going to do the sound design first, because there's a few bits in there that are going to affect how we do the MIDI notes. So, let's go through the sound design first. We've got oscillator 1 is at 50, oscillator 2 is at 30. I've got oscillator 2 transposed down an octave just to give it a little bit of sub bass, and both are on analog square. Filter, we've got low pass is on 18. There's no resonance, so we've got quite a low filter just to keep it really dark to start with. As with the ARP, I've got the filter mapped to a couple of things actually. I've got it mapped to envelope 2. Only a tiny bit of envelope on that, which is at 6. I've also got it mapped to LFO 1, just to give it a little bit of movement, okay? And the amount of the envelope on that one is 3. I'll go through the LFOs and the envelopes in a second. In fact, I will do that now. So, amp envelope, 0 on attack, 25 on decay, 50 on sustain, 14 on the release. And then envelope 2, which is... doing the filter, we've got 6 on the attack, just so it's just curving it up a little bit. We've got 14 on the decay, very low decay, bringing it down pretty quick to a very low sustain at 7 and 0 on the release. Okay, and then the LFO, we've also got, as I mentioned just a few seconds ago, we've got that mapped to, the low pass filter is mapped to LFO 1 with just a small amount of 3 going in there on the envelope. It's a really small amount. So on LFO 1, let's just come out of that. We've not got the rate, it says can't, because we've got it synced to quarter note, so it's giving it kind of just a bit of almost like a side chain sort of pulse, and I'm using the sine wave. So that's giving us this. You can hear that? Now, I don't think the original has that, but I just like to give it a little bit of movement. And then we can play with the filter to open up that sound. But I mean, that on its own is a pretty nice sound. I mean, it's pretty basic. I'm not breaking any boundaries on sound design here. There is a tiny bit of reverb on there, but not a lot. And that's the basics of the sound. The other thing we've got to remember is we need it to be in legato mode. Okay, so if we click on poly, we're going to be in legato, and we've got portamento or glide, whatever you want to call it, is on 20. So that's going to allow it to glide up. Now, if notes overlap, it doesn't re-trigger the envelope, so it just kind of goes up like that. And if they don't overlap, okay, we get the envelope re-triggering, which is why I wanted to go down through the sound design thing first, to show you the differences we've got there. So the notes we've got, we start down on an F sharp, and then we go up to a C sharp, and then a C sharp up another octave, and then it comes back down to, so it's, which I can't reach up there, Let's get this right. Let's go back to the beginning. Right, so it's going down to an A. Right, so we've got, and again, I'm not entirely sure if I've got these exactly right on the note positions. I've done it sort of from here. So we've got F1, which is going up to there. Oop, wrong one. And then on the second 16th note here, we're going up to the C2. And then on, let's get it on 16th so we can actually see exactly where we're going. Right, so the first note is held down, that F sharp, for the whole of the first bar and the first beat of the second bar. So then on beat 2 of the second bar, we're going up to that C sharp 2, and then on the third 16th note of beat 3 of that second bar, we're going up to the C sharp 3, and then on the third bar, starting right at the beginning of the third bar, we're coming all the way down to an A sharp, an octave below the original starting point on A sharp 0. That's the first 4 bars. The second 4 bars basically we're kind of working on the same basis. I'm going to talk about this note in a minute. We go back to starting on the F sharp, but then we get this extra note in here, this D. Okay, so the F sharp is going all the way through the first bar of these second 4 bars. That's bar 5. So then we've got this coming in a little bit earlier. Okay, so that D sharp is coming in on the third 16th note of the first beat. That's going up to the C sharp again. Sorry, that's going up to another D sharp. Coming back down to the C sharp. So we get this new kind of, instead of just doing the C's, and then we go all the way down to the A again at the end. And then it repeats. Okay, so we're sort of going, where's my C's? So the first ones is, no it's not. Okay, so it's F, C, C, down to the A. Then the second time, there's my D. Second time is, okay, we get this D and C thing going in there. So as we go into the MIDI again, the first note we want to pitch bend up. So what I've got is I've got an A here, which is my last note, and by putting that directly under here, it's going to kind of bend it up. Let's just get the bass on. So you get that vroom kind of going up there. And then what I do with the overlapping is I just vary it a few times. So sometimes we get the legato notes. So for example, on that one, we can see they overlap. So when it gets to here, no, oh, sorry, on the wrong one. So these ones don't overlap at the beginning. Okay, so it triggers the envelope each time. Don't think these do either. Now the second time through, then I do make them overlap. So this one you can see overlaps. Okay, so we get that more of a glide going up. It doesn't re-trigger the envelope. And it kind of works pretty well, I think. And then what I've done here is I've duplicated this track down. And I've done this one slightly different. I think it's basically exactly the same track. Exactly the same synth preset. So you can see the transpose is... Oh no, it's slightly different. I've transposed octave oscillator 2. I've got them both on 50 for this one. And oscillator 2 I've just taken down 7 semitones to give it a little bit of a detuned sort of feel. Number of voices is 5. We've got detune on 32. And again, we're on legato. Distortion is on 4. Forgot to say, actually, on the previous one, I have got some distortion on there as well. 5. Okay, that gives it just that extra bit of oomph in the low end and sounds pretty cool. Forgot about the distortion. I think the rest is pretty much the same. I think that mapping on that is the same. Yeah, that's the same. So it's just the number of voices and the detune, and that just gives us this slightly different. Okay, we get that nice sort of detune sound. So as they play together, as we kind of build up the tension in the song a little bit, what I'm doing is just going to messing about with that filter. Speed is 121 beats per minute, if you want to know that. And that's it. That's how to create Singularity by Stephan Bodzin. I'm not going to go through the structure of the song. If you want to know that, you can work that out yourself. But it does start with basically starts not with the bass. So it starts with the arp, and just like the tom thing going, and then like the whole drum pattern comes in, most of the whole drum pattern. And then if you remember rightly, when the bass comes in, it drops the kick out, then bring that back in. Actually, that would go back to that one. There's then an offbeat hi-hat coming in on this one, which is this. We've got a shaker coming in on this one. So you get and this one is just a kick because it kind of breaks down at one point into this. So that's the kick and that tom thing. So that's something I may kind of start to incorporate in my live set because it's great fun to play. I mean, I love the song. It's a great track, and that's how to try and recreate it on the Deluge. So I hope that was of interest. There's a lot of information in there, so you may have to watch this video several times and kind of pause things if you want to copy what I've done to create all of that. If you don't want to do that and you want to part with a few quid or a few dollars or a few euros, then go over to my Patreon, subscribe to me on there, and you will be able to download the entire contents of my SD card on on there. You will find this in the songs under Bodzin, and all the presets are there, because the presets are in the synths as well. We've got Bodzin ARP. There's obviously the kit, which I've saved as Bodzin kit, and we've got Bodzin bass, and what's the other one called? Bodzin bass detuned. Okay, so they are those presets, which are all available to my Patreon supporters, and much appreciated to anybody who has supported me and is continuing to support me on Patreon. It does make a lot of difference. It's a small amount for you guys to pay, but it makes a big difference to me, and it helps me to keep the channel going and keep all this content going. So thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe. Any questions about this, stick them in the comments box below. If anybody's got any questions or suggestions for future videos, again, also stick them in the comments box below, and I'll see what I can do to help you out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.